Hey guys, today we're going to make an anime case using a clear phone case. I'm going to use a Sharpie to outline the sketch that you will need. You will have to either print it out or just sketch it out. And today I'll use Apple Barrel acrylic paint. You can use any type of paint. It doesn't have to be Apple Barrel, but I just thought I would be using that today. You can get this at Walmart. As long as it's acrylic, honestly, it will honestly work. Just avoid using oil or watercolor paint. Also, I forgot to add that I got the case from Walmart. It was like $5. It wasn't that much. Also, another thing that I'll be using is acrylic brushes. Make sure they're acrylic because you will be handling acrylic paint. And I'll be using a bigger brush and a smaller brush for the details, as you can see here. And yeah. You can check out my TikTok where I have made many anime case paintings that are short tutorials, but the reason I made this video is to go into a little more deeper explanation on how to paint on the case, since you know many people wanted a longer explanation video. Now I'm just placing the case on the sketch and just outlining with the pencil. I do this because it's easier for me, since I don't know why I do this, but honestly it just helps. Because I just want the sketch to fit the case, and I don't want anything to like go out. Many people said, why do you do this? And I just don't know, but like it fits. So like, because when I tape it up, the big sides are gonna stick out. Like, it's hard to explain, but you'll see in the video where I put tape around the edges and it fits more better. So now I'm going to tape it up to the sides just to make sure when I'm outlining the sketch won't move. This is what I normally do and it helps a lot. Also, I have an art Instagram that I forgot to mention. This is where you can order a commission. I have a post where it tells you exactly what to do and all the instructions on how to order anything off me. So you can go see it. There will be a link in the bio. Now I'm going to use a Sharpie. Make sure it's also oil based, because if it's alcohol it will smear. Make sure it's a Sharpie, ultra fine point Sharpie, because it has a thin point to it. I mean, you can use the thick ones, but it will turn out thick. And make sure as I'm going over it like 2 or 3 times. Make sure to go over it, because if you don't, it will appear purple. So make sure to make it opaque, you go over it again so it will be a little bit more darker. Okay, so now I'll be able to start painting. I'll be using a blueberry frost for his eyes. I'll be using a small brush also to make this details. To make any types of highlights, it means like any types of small colors, but that also means small light colors. So that's what it means when you paint the highlights. Also, I'm making sure to look at my reference picture to make sure everything is in place and everything looks good. I'm gonna start flipping over the case just to make sure everything is in place. You can't really trust just because you look from the front. You also have to flip it over because you know you might mess up or there's something you need to fill in. So that's what I'm gonna do. And right now I'm gonna be using a white to fill in the eyes. That's also a tiny highlight, so I'll be filling it in with my tiny brush. It is very important to know when you're painting near another color, make sure to always dab it near it or like brush a little bit, but don't brush like big strokes because then that will mix in the colors and that'll mess it up. To make the blood on the face of Killua, I use the colors red and black. I made sure to just add a little drop of black because black can overtake sometimes. So now I'm gonna use a lavender purple for his hair. It's kind of like a light purple. In the reference picture it showed it was like a light purple. So I'm gonna use this color for his shade of his hair. So now I'm just gonna use my small brush and just do like a little outline. And using the little tiny tip of my brush, I'm trying to make sure to make those pointy So now making the outline is going to be more easier for me to fill in the shade as I'm doing it right here. It's like the easiest process is when you're filling in the purple lavender color. Now I'm going to use the color white to fill in the part of his hair. I'm going to use a bigger brush. It's more bigger than the last brush I used. I'm going to fill in the hair part. So as I get closer to the colors, I make sure to just dab it near the color. I make sure not to brush the paint near the other color. Like I'm trying to like kind of push the color a little bit to the next color, if that makes sense. Just make sure to dab it on there so anything won't mix. And make sure to always clean your brush. I know it's like hard, but like make sure to clean it so the rest won't like mix in together. Now I'm gonna do the shading for his face. When I mix this color, I mix a little bit of brown, a little bit of purple, just because he has kind of like a pale skin tone, and a little bit of red. If you're still confused on how to mix the colors, you can also search up many ways on there's many other YouTube videos on explaining how to do like shadings for the skin tones, but this is one way that I do it. I also am using my tiny brush to do the small details on his face. And it's also another thing to add that you should make sure not to overlap the paint. I know sometimes it's hard, but I'm trying not to overlap the paint because this can cause bubbles to the paint. This is one way to avoid it, is by dabbing it near it like I'm doing right now, and make sure just to avoid overlapping any colors together. For Kilowa's skin tone, I mixed the colors red, yellow, and white. I actually added a little bit more white because this made Kilowa's skin tone color a little bit more lighter. If you want a character more tan, you would obviously use a little bit more yellow. If you want your skin tone to be a little bit more like peach-like, you would add a little bit more red. But for Kilowa, I added a little bit more of the color white since he does have a pale skin tone color. I'm going to do part of Kilowa's shirt, and I'm going to use an English navy for his part of his shirt. I'm going to do the shading first, and I'm just going to like look at my reference picture and dab it on there. I also think it's easier to just sketch it out first and then fill it in. This is what I'm kind of doing right now. I'm kind of like sketching it out first and then filling it in. It would be a lot more easier, and I use this technique kind of a lot. I'm going to be using a bright blue to fill in the rest of the kind of like the collar of the shirt, and this is easier. I'm just going to dab it on there. now I'm gonna do the shading part of Kila's shirt. I mixed the colors purple and black to do this color, and I'm just gonna kind of like sketch it out first and then kind of filling it in. You can also do that, or you can just do it. I'm looking at my reference picture and filling in what needs to be shading. When you're doing like any type of shade, I usually just mix the colors black. Some people don't like that. They use like the complementary colors to do the shading, but I just use black and it turns out well as well. Now I did Kila's whole shirt, and I mixed the colors purple and white, and then I filled the rest in. Also a reminder to try not to overlap the colors, because this can again cause bubbles, and just brushing it and dabbing along, and make sure not to mix in any colors. Okay, so now to seal it all off, I'm going to use Mod Podge. This is sort of acts like a sealer, and I'm just opening it, and you can buy this at Walmart. There is many other types of sealers. This is just the only one I use, and it can act as sealing the paint, also from falling apart, and this just protects it from your phone and from the paint, you know, collapsing. And I'm just putting a little thin coat, and I'm using like a bigger brush and sometimes a smaller brush towards the edges. Okay, this is the end result, and it actually turned out pretty well. I really liked it. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe.